Good afternoon. This is Group 4's project on the bubonic plague by Christina Avery, Haley Legg, and Taylor Daly. A little bit of background information on the bubonic plague. Other names can include the Black Death, pestilence, the Great Mortality, and the most popular, simply the plague. Origin specifics are still debated. Some believe that the first case was in Asia in 1347, while others believe that it originated in Europe. The first case was seen in the United States in 1900. Even though this is thought of to be an ancient disease, it still poses a modern risk. There's been 1,006 confirmed cases of the plague, and over 80% of those were the bubonic form in the United States. Between 1347 and 1351, Europe's population went from 75 million to 50 million, a loss of 25 million people due to what we believe was the bubonic plague. The agent is Yersinia pestis, a highly virulent gram-negative bacterium, which uses fleas as vectors and rats act as reservoirs. The virulence factors of Yersinia pestis rely on plasmids as well as encoded virulence factors. Yersinia outer membrane proteins, or YOPs, are outer membrane proteins that use type 3 secretion systems to inject effector proteins into a host cell, called YOPs effectors. T3 secretion systems are encoded on plasmids, and YOPs play a role in inhibiting phagocytosis, initiating apoptosis, stopping cytokine production, and inducing cell death in the host cell. And these are some of the YOP effectors. Nutrient acquisition. To acquire nutrition, Yersinia pestis secretes a cytophore called Yersinia bactin, or YBT, to acquire iron from the host, as well as zinc. And they ultimately steal these nutrients from the host. For immune evasion, they have modified lipopolysaccharide in their membrane, which helps prevent activation of macrophages and plays a role in serum resistance. And this is most important during the transmission from a flea to a mammalian host, in which the temperature changes from 26 degrees to 37 degrees Celsius. They can also replicate inside of macrophages. They can survive the phagolysosomes, and this aids in protecting bacteria from other immune cells while also being able to grow inside the macrophage. Macrophages can also take bacteria to draining lymph nodes where they cause infection. And it was previously believed that Yersinia pestis could not survive neutrophils, but some studies are showing otherwise. They also have an F1 protein that forms a capsule around the bacteria to prevent engulfment. Host and risk factors. The original hosts for Yersinia pestis were rodents themselves, but when they started dying, they had to move to a new food source, which was humans. It can also be transmitted by direct contact with infected tissues and inhalation of infected respiratory droplets. Risk factors for bubonic plague include physical, occupational, and environmental factors. It's affected all ages from infant to 96, but most cases occur in the age range of 12 to 45. Young children, as with any disease, and older adults are more susceptible to catching this bacterium because of their lack of an immune system. As with immune-compromised individuals, such as those who are on chemotherapy. Veterinarian staff may come in contact with an infected animal, and those who live in rural areas amongst structures that have rodents, and other small mammals can also pose a risk. And it's most common in the United States, in New Mexico, Arizona, and Colorado. And currently, the most endemic countries are the Democratic Republic of Congo, Madagascar, and Peru. The environment. Most cases occur from late spring to early fall. Unsanitary rodent-infested communities greatly increase the risk of catching the bubonic plague and transmitting it. In a growing age of trade via ships traveling from country to country, the travel of the Black Death was immense. Traveling was referred to as the metastatic leap, and basically rats boarded the ships with their fleas, and then the fleas migrated from the rodents to the passengers and their clothes and essentially other ports after that. However, there were geographical safe havens, such as Iceland and Finland, that were untouched by the Black Death due to their environment that was cold and dry. Signs and symptoms and treatments for the bubonic plague. The incubation period is 2 to 8 days. Signs and symptoms include fever, headache, chills, and 1 or more swollen and painful lymph nodes. Currently, you can be diagnosed with the bubonic plague by multiple different tests. The PCR test is one that we're familiar with. You can also culture Yersinia pestis for buboaspirates during the acute phase. And there's also an anti-F1AB assay for buboaspirates during the covalent phase. There's currently no vaccine available. However, antibiotics, streptomycin, gentamicin, doxycycline, and ciprofloxacin can be used as treatment against the bubonic plague. And this is our works cited and our contributions.